Okay, recording started. All right. Let me get the notes. Close this. Yes. All right, let me share my screen. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whatever time zone y'all are in, hello. So we've got 3 things on the agenda for today so far, and I don't think I see any new faces here. Let me make sure of that. Oh, actually, that's not true. Harsh Kumar, have you been here before? I don't remember.
Yeah, I was in previous meeting. I joined late.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Well, welcome, and welcome anyway. So, cool. All right. So we'll take it in the order that it comes. I think, Dimitro, what do you think about discussing the Go changes in the contributors meeting? I think it's pretty in
I
the
think
weeds.
for Go changes we discussed last time, the PR is moving to the, like you said,
Yeah, I
final
don't think we
stage,
need.
right? So it looks good for now. Probably we don't need to discuss it today.
Okay. Oh, you said no need. I'm sorry. I misread your message. Yeah.
Yeah. I said it's getting more like clear. So if something, we can just keep it on the pull request discussion.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Cool. All right. Ayush, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So regarding the upload attachment feature on the Kagent, so I have created a small design. So how we can able to proceed ahead. So if you open a Miro board, so I have included a 3 phase for implementing.
Hold on. Let me open the Miro board. Cool. All right.
Yeah. So these are small like high level design. So how can we start implementing the attachment feature? So for in the phase 1, we can start with simple small files like 5 to 10 MB and continue on the single attachment for chats. And then we can move ahead for allowing uh, uh, with the help of attachment to analyze the image. For example, let's suppose Kagent mainly can be used for debugging purpose for particular. Let's suppose Kubernetes is facing some kind of error, user can able to upload an image, and we can analyze the image, what the things can be able to analyze properly. Then we in the phase 3 we can able to support other attachments. Yeah.
So when the request is actually uploading files, right? We need to properly make it clear the purpose of the file, because you are having like 2 different scenarios. One scenario, you need to directly send it to LLM, to the multimodal LLM like Gemini or something, right? Not every LLM supports this kind of like type of things. And then also it can be also like upload file as a metadata, whatever, like which will be maybe indexed by the local RAG, or there are other possibilities what we can do on our side, on like client side, right? So we need to probably from the beginning to separate those scenarios, like when one is uploading to LLM directly, another one is to storing file in the context of the session. I guess.
Yeah, I agree. So there will be 2 directions: either directly uploading to the LLM, another thing to attachment, providing attachment to the session. So we can start with the first phase, like directly providing the attachment to the LLM for reading the concept what in the attachment is present. For example, we have a YML file and JSON file, so that the LLM can able to read the content in the starting phase, like I have mentioned in the first phase. Then we can start bit by bit for implementing.
Okay, so what you're saying here, so the first stage, there wouldn't be any database, really. It would just be,
Yeah.
it would just be basically uploading to, like, we would just add it to the chat, basically, right? Add it
Right.
directly to the session.
Right. Then we can move step by step, adding the database to track all the chats and the history of the attachment. Then we can increase the capability one by one, bit by bit.
But when we need a database specifically, like, right, if we need the database, it means we need to store it like permanently, right?
Like if you
Why-
want files which you can be shared across
Shared.
different.
Yeah, but this
Let's-
itself means that we need to have like a kind of like a workspace or kind of like a notebook or something, right?
Well, it just means you need
To where it will be attached, like to the current session, to the user,
Yeah.
basically like a.
to the user.
Hmm.
But then you're right. You do need, but then, you know, who has access to it? Can the user share it? Right? Can they add it directly to a session? I agree. There's a lot of details there for sure.
Because we have in the DK this idea of artifacts, right? So it's bidirectional. So one thing, the LLM can generate something and store it, right? Another thing, we can upload something as a user from UI, maybe download it from internet and you know, keep it local cache kind of for something. So we need to think how this will be represented from UI point of view and how it will work in this context. Like basically we are moving to this context management, right? If this is artifact, then it's attached to the user, or it attached to some kind of like a shared workspace, notebook, something like this. And then how it will be, like Ethan said, how we manage permissions. Maybe it's a group permission, it's a something that you can share with others and stuff like that. Which is an interesting direction, because we don't have this idea of workspaces, right? It's a
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can start with user, right? Sort of like a user has access, or global, right? You can either have global or user. But yeah, this is interesting. I'm trying to think, like, you know,
I mean, we can go from user, start from user, and then, you know, eventually like extend it, because as soon as you start from user, you can then later start to share it with the groups.
Yeah. So I was thinking the same way. Like currently, we cannot able to share our chats to any kind of users. So in let's suppose any user want to see our chats, but we cannot able to share any kind of chat because it's no self-hosted. So I was thinking in the direction of the enterprise creation of the dashboard. So first we can try with a simple one, then we can move ahead by implementing features one by one.
I'm deciding whether or not we should just start with the database altogether, like no matter what, because you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to put this thing somewhere in the database. So, like, whether you put it in the session or it's gonna have to go into the database some way or another. So it feels like, I guess you could just encode it in the thing, but again, it will end up in the database. So, you know, I think that there's still some details to be figured out here. And I don't know if you've seen, the ADK has a concept of artifacts. Have you seen this? Yeah, so you should look into this, because ADK has a way of thinking about this already. So you should, I think you should look into this.
And basically it depends also if we would have, let's say, if we would have, let's say, Go implementation of the runtime, we can easily abstract the entire file system for the user, like, you know, the file interface and everything. And basically the agent itself will work like with a local file system storage, but under the hood, it could be, you know, stored in the database. So you can have a very simple.
Well, that's a whole other. I mean, Dimitro.
Yeah, I know, but the all the agents work perfectly with the files. You have already read file, you have already
yes.
write file, right? This is like fundamental agent skills, which are there. And then I'm just saying that as soon as we have this read file, write file, and you have the ability to, abstract it, then basically doesn't matter. Is it like your local, or is it just a shared distributed storage S3 or database?
Yeah. I mean, that gets into a whole other question about like how our sandbox works, because then really our sandboxing should do all that stuff and just set it up. But yeah,
I think that's really like a better direction than just saying let's put something in the database. We can do the database the direct database storage with the chunking. Basically, it's recommended usually to have a metadata table and then table with all the chunks of the file, which you upload it, you split it into like some kilobytes blocks, and then you upload it in that chunks. And you can also think, if we are going to index that file with vector DB or something like that, that's goes to that another feature, which is memory, which is we haven't discussed it yet, but
Yeah, that's
yeah, but I think the starting point with artifacts data and artifact, this is definitely like that would be a good thing. And maybe you can even start with uploading to the just a temporary storage on the agent itself, where you can upload it to the like /tmp with a user session, and then file is there, and then after that you can decide what is next, because UI will, I don't know, we need to see how.
I think that'll be even harder. I think
Should we give
just from
agent first, or should we give it directly to the controller?
I think we should give it to the controller, just because
The agent and LLM, the one that will be using it. So basically, the runtime of LLM is the one, it will actually require that file anyway locally.
But if you give it to one agent, then you need to upload it to every agent. Whereas if you give it to the control plane, the agent can just get it. Like if you want to say like, slash context or whatever, right? Like then, what I'm thinking, like the UI, you could do like slash, you could add slash commands, like add file or something.
Yeah.
But you can only do that. I think it's easier to do that if it can pull the data from the control plane. So whether it puts it into a local file, the actual implementation there, I think, is worth thinking about. And I think that's a really good point. I think that there's really two. Why can't I think that, yeah, I think you're right, Dimitro, that the details of actually how the agent gets the files is really interesting, right? Is it just, this Google artifact service? Is it this ADK artifact service where it like has a known thing and it's versioned and it goes and gets it? Or is it actually just we have some logic that puts it into a temporary file system that the agent has access to, and then the agent can just read it, as opposed to, but there's that one I think is better, but I think it's a lot harder.
No, but the simple temp storage, like upload file, like classical upload file to the web server, right? Before we go to distributed scenario, just one single agent replica, you upload it in the file, and then you try to connect it to the
can't write it.
Agent.
But then you can't write to the file, right? Like it's read-only data. Maybe that's okay, but I think we need to think. Oh man, no, this is a whole thing. Why is
because I think it's also something that usually done with the upload itself. It's like one operation. Then after it is uploaded, you need to kind of do something. Maybe verify that this file is safe to store. It's like not too big. Other stuff. There are multiple scenarios connected to the upload itself. And typically upload will happen via some kind of temporary storage. Doesn't matter what, if your upload component will be, so I think on the server side, you will get back like just a file handle, saying this is the file which was uploaded. That's it. Yep. So I suggest let's update the design based on this information, based on these artifacts. You can just review what is available there, because they have here like in-memory storage, right? But in basically, you would need to implement like artifact service, which is not in memory, but it's something real. Or we can start with the smaller files. I don't know, what, like maybe small in-memory storage could work as well as a beginning.
Yeah, I think Ayush, if you could research what Google has here and figure out how that applies to your current design, I think that would be really helpful. I think that would be a good next step.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Like, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's indeed a good way like to start with small. Like maybe if we have some kind of in-memory thing, then we can store it directly to the file in memory, and we can proceed ahead for larger changes.
Yep. All right, sounds good. I'm gonna keep moving because we have other people. All right, AGUI. I don't know who. I think maybe that's. Does someone want to chat about that still?
AGUI protocol, you mean extension?
Yeah, I think Ronit, did you put this last time?
Can't hear you, but if you're talking.
Someone was very excited last time about this AGUI, and we didn't have time to discuss it. So it's now it's a good time.
There you go. His mic's not working.
This is funny.
Hello.
This is in the chat, but I
Is it
just read
working?
this. Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah, it's working now. So actually, I proposed this AGUI thing last meeting. So basically, here my main thing which I wanted is that right now, whatever the how states are managed in the UI is basically it's that it just streamed from the backend, and all the content in the chat is directly just shown in the front end. So to make this more realistic and more real time, what we can do, we can just integrate AGUI, where there are list of several different protocols and functions which we can use for different purposes. First could be we can just show the live streaming of the text generation or something like that. Apart from that, whatever the agent is doing on, let's say agent is creating pod or calling other agent, or maybe doing some processing work, or maybe using some tool call. So we can show those events in a very interactive way, and where maybe later in that we can add a human in loop, something human in loop kind of thing. And that what could happen that let's say instead of right now, if we just give prompt, agent will do the complete work, and it will just show the output. So with AGY, we can maybe integrate the human in loop concept kind of thing in a more interactive way, where there will be more interactive UI in between, where user can be needed to like maybe add something, and maybe agent will work further according to that. So this was the thing which I would like to add in the K agent.
Yeah, before we go there, do you have any practical example or real example with, for example, MCP sending a custom widget or something like this? Like, because I think until now we didn't have any need, the practical need. So I think this feature would require also to bring some scenario, some use case where you want to have a custom widget via this protocol, needs to be like rendered and everything. Second, I think they have already, if I remember correctly, I checked some time back, the GUI has already integration with ADK, right? So can you explain what is behind, like what is the impact on the UI? Does it require you to just add additional library for our UI, or we need to add some kind of, like, I don't know, widget, which is I don't know, iframe, or what is the mechanism behind? Can you give some technical details about it?
Yeah,
Please?
right now I've made a basic structure how this can be integrated in our system. So most probably AG in high level, AG UI is just a interface between the front end part and the back end part. So whatever the back end request is sending to the Next.js and Next.js showing it to us. Yeah, so it just works between the Next.js and the back end part, which is a complete agent system which includes Python and Go backend. So just AG UI works in between, and it just takes the event from the backend, and accordingly, it tries to generate a realistic real-time UIs in the front end part. So it's just an add-on above the Next.js front end actually.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
clear,
don't.
and we have already our existing A2A kind of wrapper events which we are sending. The question is, like, is this mechanism is generic? Does it, for example, allow, if we enable it, to have a custom MCP which will send the custom UI without changing our UI? Or we need to have a predefined set of components? For example, we need to
No,
have...
so that's Dimitro. I was just Googling that. That's A2 UI. That's a different
okay.
protocol. So
Maybe I mixed
that's
it
what
up.
I was sharing. Yeah. So AGUI is it. If you look at my screen,
Okay, so this one is just the agent generic kind of web interface, right?
yes. So
Exactly,
confused
exactly.
about ATUI and AGUI, that's
Yeah,
understandable.
that's
Despite
my
the
fault. I'm
naming,
sorry.
they're quite different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now it's my fault. I'm sorry.
So, but I still think your question stands. So, what what like what benefit does this thing bring? Basically, like, it's just already has all the features we want. Like, I don't understand why is it better than our UI?
I mean,
Actually, it's just
I
more
have a general
interactive
comment that our
real-time.
UI is not perfect. This is this, you know.
Oh, I don't disagree with that, but I'm asking, why is this one better?
Okay. Basically, it just have you used ChatGPT, right? So in that you can just see the text is streaming, something like that. So in that also we can easily implement that with the AGUI. Apart from that, whatever the different tool calls which agent calls while whenever we give prompt to that, we can show those tool calls in more interactive way. Apart from that, if we in future try to integrate human in loop in the sense, let's say you give some prompt, it is calling some kind of tool call, and if you want some kind of stop option or pause option there, then with AGUI we can do that, and in that we can add some more data, and we can just continue from there only. So in just we don't need to just pause the complete prompt and just continue more. We can just pause that prompt and maybe add some data, and maybe just start again. Like it will just continue from there only. So for doing all those things, AGUI
I,
helps in a lot better
I'm
way.
still trying to get the idea, because when I click on demo in a GUI, it gives me all these carrots and ingredients and all these examples of the shopping cart. So
I think. Wait, let's take a step back.
this is the agentic chat. I think this is the what we can compare with our current chat. Okay, like
Yeah,
agentic chat is a
exactly.
simple one, right? The backend
Yeah.
tool rendering, this is another one. Okay, so human in the loop, it's another. So these are all different use cases of using this framework,
Yeah,
right?
these 2-3 are, yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, you can have some generator which is kind of rendering things dynamically. So there are probably different use cases here which we can evaluate one by one, like this is kind of a custom UI with a chat. You see, this is like it's actually not a part of the GUI. It's it's just a web UI state shared with a chat. Okay, this different use case. So from what I see here in the agentic chat, I don't see any superior features to our chat. It's the same thing, right?
I think, Ronit, I don't think any of us are, I'll speak for myself. I have no, like, I'm not against this at all, but I don't understand the value. So I think if you're interested in this, I think what you need to do is just do a demo for us, right? Like, show us in Kagent why this is better than what we have, and then we can decide. Because the problem with UI is like, we just need to see why it would be better. So I think
Okay.
you just need to show us that.
And also the problem with UI, it's basically in UI you probably spend a lot of time on just one CSS, which is you touch and it breaks things, and then you spend the entire day, figuring out all of these small changes. It's kind of sensitive, with all styles and stuff like that. So we need to be careful. And I agree that our UI needs some kind of lifting and add more functionality. I think everyone agree about that. But let's do first like a real use case. Let's do a demo. Let's do something which is kind of like everyone will say, yeah, this is very cool. Like for example, you have voice input, file upload, all of these features that we want, to add, and they're already there. And you just need a one magic line of code in the UI. Okay, that would be a super feature.
Okay.
I also want
So
this for what it's worth.
basically, then I'll try to make a small demo with like how this can be integrated in the UI, and I'll just try to show you the live demo maybe in the next week, like how this works more better and looks more better, and the user experience of using Cage and becomes more better with integration of the AGUI in the chat section and maybe in human in loop section or something like that. So I'll just
Perfect.
try to create a small demo and I'll just show you maybe in the next meet. Or I'll just share the link in Discord.
Sounds good to me.
Speaking about UI, I have just one more comment, which if you remember, the MCP protocol supports these progress notifications, right? And I think currently they don't have a tag released, but they already have it in the master, I think, in the Python ADK support for the MCP.
Yeah. Oh, in Python, nice. In the Python ADK.
In Go, it's already there, but in Python, it was not there. So as soon as it is there, I think we would need to add this to our UI. So it will allow us to have basically a tool call with kind of progress bar. And also the tool call, when you call a sub agent, you can have, for example, streaming back of events. So you can basically interactively show it the same way like you see it in Cursor or other tools, So when you call a long-running process, so you can show in the same box like that something is moving, something is still alive. And that would be one of the nice UI features. So also, if you are going to prepare this demo of a GUI, we would be interested specifically in the UI enhancements around the tool calling. So how this tool call can be like presented in this UI framework, with a long-running process, with a progress, something like this, This is the main area where we have it. And also the final one, I've seen some patterns on our side, on our UI testing, where we need to call multiple tools in parallel, right? We need to call what is typically called like a fan out. You have one agent and you want to call like a 10 parallel or 10 different agents or 50 different agents, right? And then, kind of wait for them to finish and then see that it's work completed, and then you summarize everything, right? Does anyone else have these use cases in general? Like, because it would be nice to have the generic like MCP example, maybe some support from UI and some support from our framework where you can do these patterns like fan out.
I think we can already, I mean, the agents will call as many tools as it wants to at the same time. I think ADK already
Do
supports
we have a
parallel.
parallel? Do we have a parallel tool support?
Yeah.
Parallel calls?
Yeah. I'm like 98% sure. I mean, I've definitely said, you know, hey, get me
our
all this
UI,
stuff.
our UI, it's a little bit behind in that event processing for this. I think
Yeah.
what we tried to do, we did some customization at the moment, but we are going to contribute it back at some point. So when you call these multiple things to kind of catch these events in the existing event flow in the UI, and then show it as a kind of like a syncing mode. When your model is syncing, you can also do there like a progress or.
It also might look like in our UI, it might look like sequential, but it's actually happening at the same time, right? So it might be just something that we need to show you, right? Like it might pop back a bunch of them, but the truth is that the AI or the agent actually called them at the same time.
And that's the issue, because if all of them are kind of like moving, moving the screen, it's not very readable.
Yeah, I agree. Agree. Cool. All right. Well, I think we got to put this one to bed because we have one more important thing to talk about. So looking forward to your demo, Ronit. All right. Feedback on, okay. Yes, let's talk about this guy. Nagarjan, do you want to kick us off? You're muted.
Yeah, I was unmuted. Sorry. So I think I had presented this earlier. Just wanted to get some feedback on OIDC authorization. I agree with you. So I think we should create an extension point or create an interface, and then the point which I don't know what to do is like you said Casbin need not be the authorization engine. So I'm not married to Casbin, so it can be anything. So it's just like I just wanted to create an extension point, and then whatever the community feels should be the default engine for authorization, we can start. I mean, I can start implementing that, and then that engine can be like modified or replaced whenever if other engines. I mean, if you want to use other engines. So that is my start. So
no, I think Casbin is fine as like a default, as long as it's not baked into this thing, right? Like if it's like a default that you have in your Helm chart, I think that's fine. I don't, but I think there's a difference between that and saying this is the way to do it, right? So.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is not the way to. Yeah, this is just an extension point, so you can like throw away Casbin and use whatever thing you want.
Yeah.
But the point is, I didn't want it to be a network call because that brings a single point of failure where if the authorization engine fails, then your whole app goes down because your app.
I mean, that's true regardless. I think the problem is if you have an extension point in the code, then people have to rebuild the binary. And then you end up with fragmented builds and community. Whereas if you have a call out, and for what it's worth, if you look at like basically every like most projects have an external authorization server because rather than like trying to build into the code.
Yeah. The other point is then you would have to deploy the external authorization server separately and then maintain it. Instead here, then you would have to also
the question when exactly this happens, this kind of moment when you enrich the current JOT token with all the permissions and roles. I think the problem is typically that in some OIDC, you will get back only user. You're not always getting all the, roles and groups because they are not externally managed. And then you start to manage it internally, and then you need this merge, right? In ideal situation, you would have everything coming already as a part of your JOT, and then you're okay because then you know your roles, and then you just use them.
Yeah, you know the groups, but you don't know the roles. Roles are based on
right.
whatever.
Correct.
So that should be maintained internally, not from outside. AD should not give you that, or any IDP servers.
Yeah. So sometimes you can have like this, this point where you basically do like a exchange of your JOT token to kind of like your internal representation. You basically during the login process, and then you have it somewhere where you can see, okay, this is my list of additional roles.
That would be the authorizer, which gives those roles to those groups.
Yeah.
Or to the user. So once that is down, then you logging into Kagent means nothing. You cannot do.
Yeah, so that's why we need to minimize this operation, right? To maybe do it only once, and then like make this JOT and sign it, and then you can just use it.
Well, no, but you don't. Hold on. You don't need to make a new JOT, right? You just take the groups, right? Like there's two concepts here. There's the JOT. The JOT has claims, and then there are a bunch of roles associated with those claims, right? And then there's an action, right? So when beforehand, right, we assign via some mechanism actions or roles to a set, like basically certain roles, right, can take certain actions.
Right.
And then we assign you as a user via your claims to a certain role or set of roles, right? And so there's the mapping. So there's two layers of mapping. So when the claims come in, we have some logic, right? In your example, it was in what's it called again? What's this language?
It's a Casbin policy.
Casbin. So there's some there's basically some logic to take. There's like a cell rule or something to take the specific claims that you need and remove them from and map them, right, to your roles, right? So that whole thing could be external. And then once you have the roles, then you can check if once you have the roles and a specific action that you're trying to take, then you can check if you are allowed to take that action based on your roles. Right.
So both of those should be external, or like what do you think one of them should be external?
Well, so I think that okay, maybe I need to draw this out in my brain. So give me 1 second so that I'm on the same page as myself, which is important. What is this? So let's make a new scene. Okay, so you have your user, right? You have Bob. I always use Bob. Bob has some JOTs, right? Which is do I have like curly brace? No. So there's some JOT, there's a JOT here. He's subject, foo, issuer, bar, right? And then you have some system here. And again, I think this is where we need to get to the bottom of it. That basically says like some language here that says, anyone like that says subject foo has role admin, right? Like there's some language, some RBAC language says subject foo has role admin, right? And then you come in here, right? And so then you say, all right, well, we know that this now we have role admin, right? Here we have subject foo. So then, but at this point we have the role admin, and then let's say that this person's trying to access an agent, right? So at that point, then you have action read, right? Action read agent, right? Role admin, right? And then this thing can actually get authorized, right? This is the auth Z check, right? This is the let's say the auth Z mapping, right? So those are the two steps basically. You need to map your claims to your roles, and then you need to make a check based on the action and the role.
Then you have like authorization policy basically, right? Which is just
Yes.
That's what
saying which role can do what.
Yes, that's exactly what we have.
But
that's
this what I was talking at the beginning, this initial kind of mapping and where we store it, right? So
Mhm.
during the login process, maybe we can just enrich the current jolt with those extra information, and then only validate that you have the permission for actions and other things. That was my point.
No, that should be validated for each and every request the user makes.
Yeah, for a request, yes, but initial mapping of the user groups
is static. That is given through a policy to the controller or to the engine.
Yeah. So in other products that I've used, we use Cell for this. We don't need to use Cell.
Cell is a good
Oh,
option.
even the engine, the Kubernetes engine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we use Cell for this. It just lets you take stuff out
Mm-hmm.
of JSON, basically. You could use JQ, right? It's fine. Whatever, like you just need something that does this mapping. And then the auth Z check, this is your RBAC.
No, the mapping is static. That is given by the operator.
It can be static. So yeah, sorry. What I meant is, it can be static. The mapping is static. The way you get the claims, you're right. The mapping is static. The way you get the claims is dynamic. So like an RBAC entry in the database, for example, would be like role admin, like claim, or mapper would be like, like, or some set of claim values. I forget, how did I do this? I recently
But
built
usually
like
during this login workflow, you can have your claims which you got from one system, and then you can call maybe sometimes external system to add additional claims, right? And this is usually the extension point where we make like additional external auth extension, right? So
But I
during
think
the
that's a different thing. That's in the auth end, right? Like that's like,
yes,
that's like at your gateway.
Exactly, but this is where I meant maybe we should put this logic about the mapping and everything, and then only we have the validation that we have permission or we don't have via simple policy.
You still need a mapping because you need some way to get the claims. You need to, because the claims, I'm telling you, Dimitri, having worked at a gateway company now for 7 years, the claims at every company are going to be different. 100%. I don't care how like how many people are using the same. Like they're somehow always different.
Yeah, but your comment about Cell, it's a good thing. I think Cell rules will be definitely something that we need to look. And I think in the agent gateway, there are certain extensions done already with Cell, right? So we can also see how they did it and maybe just borrow some of the ideas about the authorization rules. What do you think?
They have authorization?
Yeah, Agent Gateway doing those Cell rules. They have MCP authorization. They have other stuff. So I think it makes sense to take the same kind of expression language there for the rules and just bring it here.
What does the expression language have to do with mapping?
The mapping, it's just how you get it out of the. You could use it for a lot of different things.
So
you could even use it for.
Okay. So once the OIDC, once a user logs in, then you get the JWT, and then you get the claims. In my case, in my example, I used groups. So somehow, in your case, so you are saying use CEL to extract groups from the claims.
Right, like you would have like a role binding, right? Like that's kind of what it would be. You would sort of have a role. I mean, again, I think the problem.
Oh, sorry. So I was just extraction is already done by the OIDC part, which is already in the PR. Yeah, I just get the groups which is already extracted.
Right. So I'm going to comment on that PR that I don't think we should do that. Okay. I think it should be generic. I haven't commented yet, but I think that claims.
Yeah. Okay.
But the claims, in my opinion, the claims object should just be a map string. It should just, map string interface. Like it should just be a JSON blob. And then potentially like this whole bit could be a service, right? But that basically has the claims, the action that's trying to be taken, and that's it basically. And then you can do whatever you want with it. So that would be my, because otherwise, you end up having to manage database tables for this, probably like at some scale.
Do
I
you
need to think
remember
about
the
this a bit.
CNCF project Cerbos? I think we discussed it at some point. They actually solving this airbag whole solution.
What does this
I'll
do?
just
So
paste the link.
what about the mapping? So the mapping would be, yeah, I like that. But I just don't want it to do an external system because that may fail and it will cause like unnecessary a single point of failure. But that I'm okay with either. The other question is like, how do you want to create the mapping? Should it be a config map which the controller looks at, or should it be a config map to the external service? And how would you configure it from? Should it be a Helm chart configuration?
Can you just share the link which I pasted in the chat, please? I just want to look on it as well. I think they're explaining here all these concepts, and they have already some kind of like a airbag example rules and everything. Can we explore more and maybe compare the solution? Because I think they are focused exactly on this with deep dive.
Yeah, there are like several applications which do this. There is like OPA, which does this. Casbin is one. Cerbos is one. There is like Scale. So there are like so many solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's my issue. Is I don't want to take an opinion, right? That's why I prefer. So there's already an extension point in the code, right? Like you or anyone else could build a version of this, right? Because the extension point exists today in the code. But I don't want that. But I also want to be like upfront that I don't think it's a good idea to pick a specific RBAC engine, because I know people like a lot of people use different ones and they want to use their own and they want auditability and all that stuff. And the only way to really support that without, again, code extensions is a server. So what, like, I get that you're worried about an external server, but it's a very, I don't know, I feel like it's a very typical path. And also like, I mean, like you're just nervous about having anything else in the system? Like what's
the other point with the different RBAC authorization solutions is like each one gets a different type of input or context. So let's say Casbin, for example, Casbin is like very simple. It just, I mean, I'm not like rooting for Casbin here. Just don't take me wrong. I'm just saying, so Casbin uses like principal, I mean, what does it use? Like principal, resource, and action. That's all it gets, and then like makes a decision, gives out. But OPA or Cerbos in this example, like has more complex scenarios where you can like provide authorization for based on the namespace in which the agent resides, based on like several other things. So how do you give more context if you have it as an external point? Like somebody has to like give the authorization engine all these details so that it can make the authorization.
Yeah, so we would have our own, like, I mean, those are the sorts of things you figure out, right? Like most of these projects have external services you can use. So we could see if those would work for us.
Sorry, I'm not saying, okay. I'm not asking how to send these data, but I'm saying like, if you change the external auth, you would have, or use some of the capabilities of the external auth, you would have to make change in the code so that you send that information to the external auth for your authorization. Am I making sense? Like you would have to send more context. How do you send more context without changing code?
Without changing what code?
The extension point, like the extension point which sends these details.
Oh, well, that part, yeah. Like, you mean more context? Like what sort of context? Like what would be different?
What will be your extension point responsibility? I was thinking only that when during the authorization, we basically have some claims. We have some extension point where we can give the initial claims and we can enrich it with some maybe extra groups and things that we add, and we store everything in Jot, and then we just use Jot as normal. That's like one-time operation, and then you just validate that you have access or you don't have access, and that's it. If
But-
we, this will be always either too small or too big. Like
Right.
any solution we discuss right now, like OPA and other, they're too complex. Like this is like the expressions there. You can do it with AI, but for regular people, it's like too much, right?
All right. So I think for now, we're almost out of time. Nagardin, I do want to be, understandable that we need to get to the bottom of this. So I'll reach out to you offline as well, and we can chat. But I do want to be cognizant that it's already 1:00, and I have another meeting after this. So
Yeah. Okay.
so I think, I definitely I have a better, like, I've heard everyone's concerns, and I think there's definitely some more conversations to be had. Nagardin, you still have that model discovery PR up, though. I noticed that was you had some changes to
Oh
make
yeah,
there as well, right?
I'm working on it right now. I will have this PR out today.
Okay. So I just want to make sure you're not blocked there as well.
Can we also list the list of requirements here, because we need to validate later on. We need to use it, right? We need to validate access to specific UI features. We need to validate access maybe to, I don't know, based on some claims like what your agents are doing. I don't know, like, can we get to some more details, maybe what functionality we need from this airbag?
I have added a minimum requirement in the issue. If there are like other requirements, if you feel which I'm missing, then any comments are welcome. And then like I will.
And also, like, are we going to provide like a default profile, like let's say one admin, one user?
Yeah.
Just basically to
I
have
have
two basic. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. I will, like I said, I think let's follow up about this. Well, fine, because I need to hop to another meeting. But great discussions, all. Cool to see that we have so many open topics in these meetings. And yeah, looking forward to, we have the contributors meeting this week as well. On Thursday, I know we're going to be discussing memory as well as the Go changes, most likely. So if you want to hear more about those or discuss more, definitely join up there as well. Cool. All right. Well, with that in mind, I will talk to you all later.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your feedbacks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks. Bye.
See you later.